travel to Kandy.
මල්ලතු අස්කිරි උදේ පාර්ශ්වයට කියන්නේ නැතුව ආණ්ඩුකාරතුමාට නිල දැනුම් දීමක් නොකර මේ කට්ටිය ශනේකින් මේ ගෙනල්ලා දැන්.
Minister Vasudeva tests positive for COVID-19. 28 MPs under self-quarantine. Large-scale land grab in Hambantota. A revelation by Minister Namal Rajapaksa. Attorney General informs court that he does not intend to continue the case filed against Pillayan over the murder of Pararajasingham. Nancy Pelosi says House will proceed with efforts to remove Trump with urgency.
On to your first story tonight, the new High Commissioner of Bangladesh, Tariq Muhammad Ariful Islam, presented his credentials to President Gotabaya Rajapaksa today.
When the new High Commissioner presented his credentials at the presidential residence this morning, the President said that his aim was to enhance bilateral relations with the countries in the region, including Bangladesh. The President pointed out that there is great potential for the development of maritime cooperation among the states in the Indian Ocean and added that Sri Lanka has prioritized this. Bangladeshi High Commissioner, His Excellency Ariful Islam, invited the President to pay an official visit to Bangladesh. Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa inaugurated the oldest renovated building at Thurston College, Colombo today to coincide with the school's 71st anniversary. The building, which was in a dilapidated condition, was renovated with the support of the Ministry of Defence. The Navy renovated the building while funds for the construction were provided by the school's Development Society. Incidentally, Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa, an alumnus of Thurston College, had studied in this building during his years at school.
On to your latest weather update. According to the Department of Meteorology, 4 provinces in the country will experience heavy rains exceeding 100 millimeters. Several other provinces will receive rainfall exceeding 75 millimeters. The Met Department says that the prevailing extreme weather will continue until the 18th of this month.
According to the Department of Meteorology, the north, central, eastern and central provinces will face a risk of heavy showers in this manner. The Met Department advises the general public to be vigilant and prevent accidents caused by lightning and gale winds. The Met Department said that the north and central provinces will experience wind speeds of 40 to 50 kilometers per hour. The reason for this extreme weather situation is the low-level atmospheric disturbance in the vicinity of Sri Lanka. The Department of Irrigation says that spill gates of 18 major reservoirs out of 73 has been opened due to the prevailing heavy showers. This is how the spill gates of the Kandy reservoir in Dambulla were opened today. With the spill gates of the Kandy reservoir being opened, the Dambulla-Vavala road was completely closed down. With the extreme weather, 4 spill gates of the Dambulla reservoir were opened as well. The Dambulla reservoir releases 4,900 square feet of water per second to the Kalaoya. Two spill gates of the Kalaoya have been opened due to the heavy showers that are being reported in catchment areas. The Kalaoya releases 6,250 square feet of water per second. Meanwhile, the entry road to the Onorakumara Mahaviharaya has been inundated due to heavy rain. Transportation of vehicles was hampered after the Galnava-Kakirava road was inundated. Meanwhile, the Anuradhapura district is experiencing heavy rainfall at present. 6 spill gates of the Rajangane reservoir were opened as a result of the highland water catchment areas receiving heavy rainfall. The Rajangane reservoir releases 12,000 square feet of water per second. According to the Department of Irrigation, areas surrounding the lowlands of Karuwalagasbava and Vanathavilluwa will experience minor flooding in the coming few hours as a result of the spill gates at the Rajangane reservoir being opened. Meanwhile, 2 spill gates of the Tabboa reservoir were opened this morning. The Tabboa reservoir releases 470 square feet of water per second to the Nan reservoir. As a result of this, the entrance to the Vilpattu National Park was completely submerged. All 10 spill gates of the Parakrama Samudra have been opened for 3 straight days now. 6 spill gates have been opened up to 2 feet and 4 spill gates have been opened up to 1 foot. 2,150 square feet of water per second is released to the Mahabali River through the Amban River. The Department of Irrigation requests the people living in surrounding areas of the Mahabali River to be vigilant due to this. Heavy rainfall is being reported from the highland catchment area in Mioya. Due to this, 2 spill gates of the Abakolavawa Reservoir were opened last night. The Abakolavawa Reservoir releases water to the Ingimmitia Reservoir through the Mioya. Meanwhile, 14 spill gates of the Iranamadu Reservoir have been opened as well. The Department of Irrigation requests people living in lowlands to be cautious.
We'll be back after this short commercial break. Stay tuned.
Struggling to find reliable plumbers, electricians, gardeners and other service providers? Bellboys got you covered.
Welcome back to the news. Still in local news, these are the views expressed by Onorakumara Disanayaka, the leader of the Jathika Janabalawegaya, at a meeting held in Gampaha yesterday.
If this country cannot be built, there is no other country in the world that can be developed. Economic policies of this country are arguable, but the main quality you need to build within this country is honesty. Many rulers do not have this quality in them. During the sugar deal, they show their honesty towards Sajan Mavusan. And when the Satosa deal came up, their honesty is towards... They are honest towards... During the antigen kit business, and when bringing down the Sri Lankan expatriates stuck abroad, their honesty is towards the avant-garde. Though they are honest towards their businessmen, they don't show the same loyalty towards the public. Secondly, we need solidarity to build this country. One person cannot develop this country alone. Furthermore, we need to make sacrifices to develop this country. Instead of making sacrifices, what do our leaders do? They are earning a living from the public funds and has paved the way for the henchmen around them also to make money.
The Ukrainian tourists in the island visited Kandy today. A group of about 150 Ukrainian tourists who arrived in Kandy visited the temple of the sacred tooth relic. This was the situation in Kandy when the Ukrainian tourists were about to leave.
Who brought these people here? You are helpless. If your children get this virus, who will be responsible for it? Will anyone here take responsibility for it? This is the situation that the country is in right now. These tourists have been brought here without notifying the Askiri or Malvatu chapters or even the mayor. In 2 more days, they are going to Vilpattu. They are going to tour the entire country once more. Today, Ukraine has been placed under lockdown. So, against such a backdrop, are we safe? Who will be responsible if any one of us get this virus? The Temple of the Tooth is being disinfected now. Will this virus stop just because we disinfect the premises? What about the drivers of these buses? What are they wearing? Only these people here have protective covering. So are these people going to be quarantined for 14 days? Where is the security? The government said these people will not be brought here because they have already brought them to the Temple of the Tooth. So the people in Kandy, the employees at the sacred temple and the Mahasangha, our people, everyone are at risk. We regrettably inform these matters to all citizens of Sri Lanka.
අපේ ජනතාවට විශාල ගැටලුවකට මුහුණ පාන්න මේ වෙලාවේ සිද්ධ වෙලා තියෙන කියන ඉතාම කනගාටුවෙන් යුක්තව දැනුම් දෙනවා සකල ශ්‍රී ලංකා වාසී ජනතාව. දැන් බලන්න අර මේ අපේ සාමාන්‍ය මිනිස්සු මේ යන්නේ. ඔබතුමාලට බලන්න පුළුවන් අර කට්ටිය ඇසිරෙන විදිය. ඉඳගෙන හැම තැනම.
Look over there. These are ordinary people walking here. You can see how those people are behaving. They are seated inside the temple. They walked all over the place. Previously, they said that the drivers and other staff here had protective gear. But now you can see that they have no protective gear, they are only wearing a mask. These tourists are disinfected before they enter the bus. Who can we complain to now?
කිසිම දෙයක් නැහැ මුඛාවරණයක් විතරයි කට්ටිය දරාගෙන ඉන්නේ. අතන නිකන් අර ස්ප්‍රේ එකක් ගහලා ඇතුල් කරගන්න. කාට කියන්නද මේවා? ඉතින් බලන්න අර ස්ප්‍රේ එකක් ගහලා ඇතුලට ගන්න.
A social media post by Udayanga Veeratunga stated that the tour was organized while strictly adhering to health guidelines issued by the government. Another post by Udayanga Veeratunga said that the tour group was scheduled to visit the Pinnavela Elephant Orphanage, but the visit was cancelled as they did not get proper value for money. He added that it would cost a sum of 627,000 rupees for 209 tourists to visit the Pinnavela Elephant Orphanage. We inquired from the governor of the central province, Lalityu Gamage, regarding the Ukrainian tourist group's visit to Kandy. He said that he was not informed of the tour group's arrival. He added that as this tour was organized by the tourist board, there is no requirement for the governor to be informed. He further said that as the program is being conducted according to the guidelines that have been issued, the assessment of the risks involved must be done by health authorities.
Minister of Water Supply Vasudeva Onorakumara has tested positive for COVID-19. Recently, members of Parliament Rauf Hakim and Dayasiri Jayasekara also tested positive for the virus. Our correspondent from Parliament said 28 parliamentarians had been moved to self-quarantine following the detections. Out of the selected parliamentarians, 3 underwent PCR tests and it was later confirmed that they had not contracted the virus. Meanwhile, our correspondent from Parliament said 19 people from the Parliament staff and security forces are currently undergoing self-quarantine.
At the last session, we decided to convene Parliament this time. Therefore, we have to respect the decision and convene Parliament. If an issue arises, we have to find a solution for that question as it is. Each and everyone should take precautions and act. A decision has been made that Parliament will convene. Accordingly, parliamentary sessions will be held. On that day, we will decide if we are going to continue sessions or not.
The Attorney General's Department informed court today that it does not intend to proceed with the murder case of Joseph Pararajasingham, which was heard against MP Sivanesature Chandrakanthan alias Pillayan.
The case was filed against 5 people, including Sivanesature Chandrakanthan, in connection to the murder. When the case was taken up again in the Batticaloa High Court today, the Attorney General's Department said it did not intend to proceed with the case. Accordingly, the verdict of the High Court is due to be announced next Wednesday. The case was taken up today. This case cannot be continued. You know, we were arrested as an act of political vengeance. The case was filed in a well-planned manner based on the statements given by 2 people for political revenge. The verdict is due to be announced in the Batticaloa Court next Wednesday, following an order issued by the Court of Appeal noting that the case could not be continued.
An individual had opened fire at a private car sale on the Ampara Kalmune road earlier this morning.
The incident occurred around 3 a.m. today when an individual wearing a helmet had fired shots. The shooting resulted in several vehicles in the car sale being damaged. The Ampara police have launched special investigations regarding the incident. However, no arrests have been made as of yet. Minister Johnston Fernando participated in an event yesterday to provide boats to fishermen's associations and release juvenile fish to the Makalla Reservoir in Nikavarathiya.
The people are carrying out a campaign against the concept of one country and one law. However, the President and Prime Minister of Sri Lanka have said that they will take responsibility to protect and keep the concept active. I was recently questioned as to why the Mahasangha is working against the government, as the majority of their votes were from the Sinhalese Buddhists in the country. The Mahasangha have all the right to do so. They have worked hard enough to bring the ruling faction into power. They are now trying to create friction between us, the President, Prime Minister and the Mahasangha. The opposition is keeping the corpse on its shoulder while making attempts to bring unnecessary issues between us.
Minister Namal Rajapaksa made a revelation about a large-scale land grab that is taking place in Hambantota. He made these revelations at a press briefing in Colombo.
A discussion was held at the Ministry of Wildlife and Forest Conservation to resolve several issues being faced by the people of Tissamaharama and Suryaveva divisional areas. The Minister of Wildlife and Forest Conservation, Ministry officials, Minister Namal Rajapaksa and a group representing the people of Tissamaharama and Suryaveva divisional areas were also present.
Large-scale land grabbing is taking place especially in the Suryaveva, Hambantota and Lunugambehera divisional areas. Some mention the names of politicians. Our names are also mentioned. Even though we lodge complaints with the police and discuss the matter with the police, there is no end to it. What we feel is that these things happen with the blessings of the officials. We can say this with reasons to be suspicious. If an innocent man goes to the forest to cut a piece of firewood, he will be put in jail. There is no law when someone bulldozes 300 or 400 acres. So we, as well as the people of the village, have a reasonable doubt as to why this is happening. Honorable Minister, you should also pay attention to this.
Comments were made on the construction of a new elephant fence in Tissamaharama.
In particular, we are not erecting this fence considering the legal boundaries, but to prevent damage to the homes of those people and villagers. This is the concept we are following in the Onorakumara district as well. Now, if you want to make a change, you can make a change. There could be a risk. The question is, who will take the risk?
No, the way you look at Hambantota needs to be different from the Onorakumara district. It varies from village to village. The majority of these villages are illegally constructed in the recent past. The problem is that these villages are located in wildlife zones and the law was not enforced at the time. Here, the problem arises when we are trying to build a fence to save a newly built village. Honorable Secretary, if we activate the existing fence, then we will be able to protect the villagers as well as the lands. That is what the villagers ask.
People have a strange hatred for forest and wildlife officials, but they need to pay special attention to the work they do. If there is no electricity in the home of a wildlife officer, they will even go next door and charge their phones. If the person in the house where the phone charges wants to cut down a tree, they have to look the other way. If the facilities aren't available, we will have to do it now as the people are making their needs clear since 4:30 a.m.
Various views were expressed today regarding the letter sent by MP Harin Fernando to the Inspector General of Police.
I believe that former Minister Harin Fernando must be given adequate protection because there are issues within his party as well. So if Harin Fernando gets involved in these issues and something happens to him, he will blame the President for it. So we too request the Inspector General of Police to provide him with proper protection.
We cannot approve these actions that attempt to silence our party by intimidating parliamentarians. The current opposition is also not an opposition that can be silenced like that either. We stand with MP Harin Fernando. His voice represents the voice of all of us. In the future, we will have to take even stricter action against these. We are currently discussing on what we could do in the future.
My stance is the same as it was before. We need a dictator who can develop our country. I stand by that statement even today. But on that point, I believe that Gotabaya is better than Nandasena when it comes to acting as the former defense secretary to build the country.
He is the president of the country. The office of the president is more powerful than the individual Gotabaya. So we would like to reiterate that the president's behavior should be appropriate to the office he holds. When the president goes to respond to these charlatan-like politicians, the president falls down to their level.
On to some international news. US First Lady Melania Trump has issued a statement saying she is disheartened and disappointed with the events of last week.
She also said she had been a victim of personal attack since the storming of the capital. She added, quote, "I find it shameful that surrounding these tragic events there has been salacious gossip, unwarranted personal attacks and false misleading accusations on me from people who are looking to be relevant and have an agenda. This time is solely about healing our country and its citizens. It should not be used for personal gain," unquote. Melania Trump thanked the millions of Americans who supported Trump and her over the past 4 years and had shown the incredible impact of the American spirit.
The executive rule in the United States of America, the leader of the free world, has garnered global attention. Joining a TV program, Speaker of the United States House of Representatives Nancy Pelosi said that President Donald Trump should be held accountable for Republican supporters storming the Capitol Hill.
Madam Speaker, who is running the government of the United States? We have a pandemic. We just had this horrendous act of violence up here. We had a Russian hack of our institutions. Is anybody running the executive branch of the government? Who is running the executive branch?
Well, sadly, the person who's running the executive branch is a deranged, unhinged, dangerous President of the United States. And only a number of days until we can be protected from him. But he has done something so serious that there should be prosecution against him.
Well, I gather that the 25th Amendment is off the table.
No, it isn't. Nothing is off the table. I think there was universally accepted that what happened was a terrible, terrible violation of the Capitol, of the first branch of government, the legislative branch, by the President of the United States. It said, "Go home," but the election was, went on with his lies, his misrepresentations, his delusion that he won in a landslide in this election. Shame on them, and shame on 2/3 of the Republican caucus in the House supporting those. So these people are enablers of the president's behavior. I remember when Republicans in the Senate went to see Richard Nixon and said, "It's over." That's what has to happen now. I have sought information from those who are in a position to know that there are protections against this dangerous president initiating any military hostilities or something worse than that.
There is a possibility that after all of this, there's no punishment, no consequence, and he could run again for president.
And that's one of the motivations that people have for advocating for impeachment.
Won't that take more than the 10 days? I mean, does it actually make sense?
Well, I like the 25th Amendment because it gets rid of him. He's out of office. But there is strong support in the Congress for impeaching the president a second time. This president is guilty of inciting insurrection. He has to pay a price for that.
President Trump is a failed leader. He will go down in history as the worst president ever. The good thing is that he soon will be as irrelevant as an old tweet. But what are we to make of those elected officials who have enabled his lies and his treachery? I will remind them of what Teddy Roosevelt said. Patriotism means to stand by the country. It does not mean to stand by the president. And from those days, I remember a phrase that is relevant today: a servant's heart. It means serving something larger than yourself. See, what we need right now from our elected representatives is a public servant's heart. We need public servants that serve something larger than their own power or their own party. We need public servants who will serve higher ideals, the ideals in which this country was founded, the ideals that other countries look up to. Now you see this sword? This is the Conan sword. Now here's the thing about swords. The more you temper a sword, the stronger it becomes. The more you pound it with a hammer and then heat it in the fire and then thrust it into the cold water and then pound it again and plunge it into the fire and into the water, the more often you do that, the stronger it becomes. I'm not telling you all this because I want you to become an expert sword maker, but Our democracy is like the steel of this sword. The more it is tempered, the stronger it becomes. Our democracy has been tempered by wars, injustices, and insurrections. I believe, as shaken as we are by the events of recent days, we will come out stronger because we now understand what can be lost. We need reforms, of course, so that this never ever happens again. We need to hold accountable the people that brought us to this unforgivable point. And we need to look past ourselves, our parties and disagreements, and put our democracy first.
Also in local news, a national movement was launched against the sale of the East Container Terminal of the Colombo port. This movement, that was established by a number of organizations, was named as the Movement to Protect the East Container Terminal.
23 trade unions from the Ports Authority, the National Organizations Collective and a large number of civil organizations joined the formation of this new national movement. The Government Medical Officers Association, the World Trade Unions Federation, the Sri Lanka Nidahas Sevaka Sangamaya, the Ceylon Teachers Union, Ceylon Teachers Service Union and many other trade unions also joined hands with this national movement. The JVP, the Frontline Socialist Party, the Janaseta Peramuna and a number of other political parties too pledged their support to this movement.
As the SLFP, we went to the working people and promised them that we will bring down Vihara Mahadevi, and with that good times will come ahead. But in a few days, the arrival of Vihara Mahadevi brought us no good. We went to the working people again and told them that didn't work out. We will now bring Dutugamunu. We brought Dutugamunu as well, but even that did not work out. Finally, we asked the people not to worry, because this time we are bringing a person who will protect the East Container Terminal. But when he came into power, what happened? The ministers started to table cabinet papers in the dozens to sell off these assets. We, the trade unions that helped form this government, are now united in our fight against these actions.
The port is like a piece of property that is owned by the Sangha. It cannot be touched. The port is owned by the people, just like that. At times I wonder if we voted and brought into power an auction company. We know that there are two main auctioneers in the country. At least when they auction off something, they ring a bell. These people are auctioning these off without sounding even a bell. I know that steps are being taken in secret to sell off this port. I must be thankful to the top-tier government servants as well as all other government employees in all levels of administration, because if there is anything that is detrimental to the country, they inform the temple about it. Sometimes we receive even details of secret conversations held inside locked rooms surrounded by armed guards. We kindly inform this government. Do not prepare to behave like this. Don't try to make foreign countries smile by bringing a tear to the eyes of all Sri Lankans.
You came into power with a mandate against selling off assets of our country. After coming into power on that mandate, you have no moral or legal right to sell off or lease the Colombo port to a foreign country. Isn't it sad to see these events unfold after the government gave such a clear promise and came into power on our backs? Aren't you ashamed?
නයි දාගෙන කනවෝ කියන එක අවසන් කළ යුතුව තිබෙනවා මේ රටේ වගකිය යුතු ජනතාව. සමහරවිට අපි ටයි එකක් දාලා ඉන්නේ. හැබැයි ටයි එකේ ගැටේ පුරුල් කරලා ඇතුළට සර්පය දාගත්තම ඌ කනවම තමයි. මේ මතු පිටින් ඒ පෙන්නන්නේ බලය ලබා ගැනීම සඳහා වන වෙනස්කම. ඒ වෙනස්කම මත පදනම් වෙලා මේගොල්ලෝ දෙකක් කියලා හිතන එක තමයි ජනතාව මුලා කරන ක්‍රියාවලිය.
The foundation stone was laid today to reconstruct the Mullavaikal Memorial that was destroyed at the University of Jaffna.
The foundation stone to rebuild the memorial was laid today by the university's Vice-Chancellor S. Sri Satkunaraja and a group of students.
தமிழ்நாட்டில் கன பிரச்சனை இந்தியாவில் இன்னைக்கு சம்பந்த் இந்தியன் எம்பசிக்கு போகிறேன் இன்றைக்கு 2 ஸ்டோன் செரமோனியில் வச்சு இந்த பிள்ளைகளை சாந்தப்படுத்தி அவங்க இந்த கோரிக்கை ஏற்றுக்கொள்றதை சிம்பலைஸ் பண்ணணும், அடையாளப்படுத்தணும்.
With the laying of the foundation stone, the students who were engaged in a hunger strike called it off.
Meanwhile, opposition leader Sajith Premadasa arrived at the Gatabe Rajopavanarama today.
The leader of the opposition, Sajith Premadasa, called on the chief incumbent of the Gatambe Rajopavanarama, Venerable Kapetiyagoda Sirivimala Thera, and had a brief discussion with the Thera.
රටේ ජාතික ආරක්ෂාව ස්වෛරීත්වය ඒකීය භාවය නෝනික කතන්දරාව බාහිර බලවේගයන් ඇඟිලි ගහන්න කීද තබන්නේ.
The opposition leader Sajith Premadasa then expressed his views to the media. According to the information we have received so far on the Muthurajavela development project, we can see that this program is going to be carried out without the environmental assessment report or any investigations. His Eminence Cardinal Malcolm Ranjith has also shown his dissent towards this project. The Cardinal is a great fatherly figure who points out the mistakes whenever he sees them. We need to listen to his advice. Also, we need to consult the environmentalists and experts in this field and look into the potential side effects of this development project before beginning the project.
A large amount of garbage has flown into the Mahabali river in the Tennekumura area in Kandy.
The waste has flown into the Mahabali river as a result of high rains taking place over the past few days.
මේ වගේ බලන්න කොච්චර කුණු ගොඩක් එවනවද කියලා දවසකට මේකෙන් තමයි බොන්නේ කන්නේ ඔක්කොම කරන්නේ මේ වතුරේ. ඒක කවුරුත් බලන්නේ නැහනේ. බොරුවට කියනවා පරිසරය බලනවා පරිසරය රකින්නවා කියලා කවුරුත් රකින්නේ නැහැ. මේවා දැන් මෙතන බ්ලොක් වෙනවා වතුර අඩු වෙනකොට වික්ටෝරියා ජලාශය පැත්ත තමයි ඇදලා සුද්ධ කරන්න නෑ මම හිතන්නේ සුද්ධ කරේ ගොඩ කාටින් ආවේ නෑ සුද්ධ කරන්න.
The residents of the area have requested the waste to be removed as soon as possible.
මහවැලියේ තියෙන වටිනාකම මිනිසුන්ට මේක තේරෙන්නේ නැහැ. මේ සුන්දර මහවැලිය වික්ටෝරියා ඩෑම් එකද මේවා ගිහලා පිරෙනවා. මේවා වෙලාව වලට ඇලන්තිලේ ගලාගෙන යනවා. වහම මේවට ක්‍රියාත්මක වෙන්න. ක්‍රියාත්මක වෙලා මේ රට සුන්දර රට ආරක්ෂා කරගන්න සියලු දෙනාම එකතු වෙලා මේකට මොන හරි වැඩ පිළිවෙලක් කරන්න කියලා තමයි මම ඉල්ලන්නේ.
Nominations were handed in for the elections of the Bar Association for the year 2021.
The current chairman of the Junior Bar Committee, President's Council Kuera de Souza, and former Deputy President of the Bar Association, President's Council Salia Pires, submitted their nominations for the post of President of the Bar Association. Attorney at Law Rajiv Amarasuriya, who currently holds office as the Secretary of the Bar Association, was re-elected to the same post uncontested. There are many challenges ahead for the Bar Association. Especially there are issues with regard to the integrity of lawyers, and junior lawyers are also facing a myriad of issues. I hope to resolve all of them.
Our campaign has been based on policies and principles. We, over the last many months, we have carried on a principled campaign, not based on the distribution of money, on goods, on false pretenses.
The Bar Association election is scheduled to be held on the 24th of February.
A special guest had arrived at a house on Kostapal Street in Kalmune, Ampara today. It was a crocodile. With the intervention of wildlife officials, the crocodile was removed from the area. Today's news ends with these scenes being brought to you. For the News First team, I'm Dasani Athauda, along with our interpreter tonight, Brian De Cruz. Good night.
What